Hey guys, Magic Man here, and I just wanted to talk about some hidden values that are in the game that kind of affect the gameplay and sort of some mechanics. And what you just saw there was me hopping into autopilot mode, and you can hit M and access that, and left click to designate where you want your ship to go. But anyways, as you see here on your screen, this is actually a chart, and thank you Doc Skinner from the Black Fleet for this. It shows the correlation between dispersion and sigma. Sigma value is a hidden value that determines basically how tightly grouped your shells are going to be, essentially. And these are just a graph. It's kind of drawn out for you to visualize it. So say a ship with high dispersion and a low sigma, that would be a ship like the Fuso or the New Mexico. You have a large area that your shells can land in, and usually your shells go all over the place within that area. Something like a high dispersion, high sigma ship, that's probably going to be trying to think of a ship that actually has good accuracy, maybe like the Amagi. It's got a high dispersion, but it usually lands most of its shots where you aim them. And then a low dispersion, low sigma, that's sort of like the ship that I'm selling now. It's like the Bujoni. It has a small dispersion area.
Autopilot mode disabled.
The shells still kind of tend to wander. And so the higher sigma value you have, the better, because the more shells are going to go to the place where you aimed. And the lower dispersion you have, the better, because it gives the less room for those shells to wiggle around within that area if you do have, say, a low sigma value. And right here, I've just set up a little training room with a carrier, and right now I have this carrier targeted. You notice that by the basically the crosshair over his icon above his head. And when you target somebody, your accuracy actually increases, and basically what that means is that your dispersion basically is cut in half. I think is the best way to explain it. You can see there, all kind of dispersed right there in the middle of the superstructure. And now with the carrier untargeted, see the shells, they disperse just a tad bit more. I think that was a bad example. But with it targeted, the shells are fairly tightly grouped. As you can see there, they all hit in the back aft of the ship. And now with it untargeted, they disperse a lot more upwards, but they actually land more concentrated, which is kind of odd. But this is why when destroyers pop smoke and become unspotted, you find it very difficult to hit them all of a sudden. And this is why, because when you can't detect them, your dispersion goes back up to its normal value, and it makes it very hard to land any shots. And that's a good example right there of an untargeted dispersion shot. Most of those, one of them went almost all the way to the back of the ship, even though I was aiming at the front of it. And I'm going to pop my spotter plane just to kind of give you a little bit better view as to what's going on here. Just getting a little bit further away from the ship, because I feel like 9 kilometers is actually pretty close. It's hard to kind of miss. As you get in a longer range, like 10, 11, 12 kilometers, it becomes very noticeable. And that's a targeted shot right there. Most of them hit center mass where I was aiming. But I think, what, 3 shells went a little bit crazy there. Went to the front back of the ship. Now you can see this is a targeted shot. This is a very good dispersion right there. Basically, all but 3 of those shells land on the ship. They were very tightly grouped. Because of the arcs of this gun, didn't get a citadel on them, but once you get closer and the arcs kind of flatten out a little bit, aiming right there under the engines, you can get citadels. And now I'm just going to chain fire here. This is why I think this ship has a low signal value. I have it targeted right now, and the shells are really spreading out pretty far. Something like the Molotov, those shells would not disperse quite as far. They'd be more tightly packed. But anyways, that's aiming and or dispersion and kind of how it affects your ship.